the 8 months that you've been running, have you maybe been in contact with organizations such as Zimtrade for the facilitation of exports, in terms of your business exporting? Because I know that there's a couple of farms in the Midlands, they're actually doing things like flowers and they're exporting to the Netherlands and I think Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, judging on what you're saying, I foresee that there's a space there for Ezulu.
Yes. Zimtrade has been very instrumental in driving export in Zimbabwe. And Mr. Nkala, who is the Bulawayo manager, has really been helpful. He has been in touch constantly to find out how we're doing. When Ezulu began operations in September of 2019, the first product that we actually planted was potatoes, which were to service an order in Namibia. They were actually going for export. So we grew those organically. And for us to then be able to know how to do it, I then did have a conversation with Mr. Nkala, who advised how to go about it, to get the permits. So Zimtrade is very important. And given the position or the time that we are in, we need to actually invest more into Zimtrade to capacitate them more so that they can get more products out. Because our strategy, and this is what we would like to share for Zimbabwe, is Zimbabwe to get out of the challenge that it faces. Besides employment creation, we need to export extensively. While we are in our own processes import substituting, by coming up with import-like businesses, we need to drive exports. So Zimtrade is one of those critical institutions that need to be assisted. And the second one, and I've called for this and I've said this clearly even on my Twitter page, I've said we also need the IDC of Zimbabwe to come to the party. I'd called for the minister, Thuli Ncube, in his maiden budget. I'd called for $500,000 at the time to be allocated for venture funding. I'm happy that that was allocated, but what we have not seen as of yet is how that is trickling down, how that is being used. Because if the IDC were to be given funds to be able to fund entrepreneurs, because this is where we are. This is where we are as Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe needs to begin to support its entrepreneurs. These are the people that are going to take this country up. Let's forget the old businesses. We need to look at the new companies, prop up these new companies, actuate Zimtrade, we export more. This is what is going to get Zimbabwe up. And for that to happen, we obviously need DFI funding, and which is where IDC comes in. Nobody is going to bring a single cent to Zimbabwe to come and invest in a venture. The only funding that can come into Zimbabwe is growth funding, meaning the venture funding needs to come from ourselves. We need to start the businesses ourselves, we need to grow them ourselves, then we can then invite somebody to come and invest in a business that has shown traction and that has shown that it is viable. So which is what we've done. I mean, the opportunities are immense. I mean, in Zimbabwe has been left in the region for more than 20 years now. We have a lot of catching up to do. But for us to catch up, we need to fund the starting phase ourselves. Because nobody can put that money, nobody was going to give that money to say, go ahead and start. We need to start ourselves, then we can then solicit foreign direct investment on viable projects that are in operation. So that's the activities that we are doing in Zimbabwe. And then because we've launched Coleman Resources Zambia, which is facilitating trade for SMEs, we also launched Coleman Resources Namibia, which is doing the same. This then led us to establish Accelerate Africa. Accelerate Africa is a FinTrade company which finances and accelerates SME business within Southern Africa. So this is a company that we started beginning of late 2019.
Okay.
And
I think, Mr. Ndiweni, my interest for me really is Zulu.
yeah,
I'll tell you why. Because I think one, I'm looking at, there's just been a lot of talk about green businesses. There's been a lot of talk about the farming revolution, how young people are getting into farming in Zimbabwe, right? So I think really I would like this documentary to focus more on that, which is why I'm itching to go to the farm next time.
okay, all right.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Although this background, but for me, my main interest is yes.
All right. No, I think Zulu Foods is part of the story.
All right.
It's a chapter in the story.
Okay.
So if we focused on Zulu completely, then we'll do disservice to the Coleman Group. All right. So the Coleman Group, which is what is the bigger mother, is what is key. Zulu Foods, yes, is a green business. Our food is grown organically. We are obviously crowding young people into it. I think you've seen recently we also have partnered Fresh in a Box for their deliveries in Harare while we deliver in Bulawayo. So we do encourage young people to come into the space, into the agriculture space. But I prefer to be very forthright and honest. We must not sell the fallacy that agriculture pays. Agriculture pays at a particular level. It is a game of scale. It provides employment, that's a given, provides employment. But to then say, let all our young people go into agriculture, we are lying to them because, firstly, as I've said, agriculture is a game of scale. How much land do we have available that is arable for farming? Number one. Most of the plots that have been given out are 1 acres, 1 hectares. How many people can scale that up? You are averagely spending on a 1 hectare, 1 hectare plot. For it to grow anything meaningfully, you're probably spending about $2,000 on the irrigation equipment. You'll then spend about $500 a month to sustain the operations. And from 1 hectare, you'll probably make between $2,000 and $4,000 after 3 months when you harvest. So, for 1 hectare, it may seem unviable. But if you've got 10 hectares, that means that 2,000 to 3,000 that you make is multiplied by 10, that's 20. While your costs then tend to remain manageable. So it is a game of scale. For us to then say, let all our young people move into agriculture. Yes, it's fine to absorb the unemployed youth. It will give them something to do. But it is not viable for all of them to be in agriculture. It is okay for those that have got the resources to begin to generate employment. So that's number one, the issue of scale in agriculture. The second issue is the issue of the financial backing. As I've already given you the figures of 2,000 per hectare and how much you are making per hectare, that means that essentially you will invest continuously in agriculture for a minimum of 18 months before you actually break even. Do we have people that have got that deep a pocket to do it at subsistence level? No. Are the government programs that have got the resources to capacitate those farmers? No. So what you'll have is you'll have a lot of young people out in the field and capacitated and able to make it productive. So end result is, yes, it will momentarily take the pressure out of the cities, but it will not solve our problem of enabling poverty alleviation, which is what we want to do. Yes.
So how then can these young black farmers be empowered?
So, if already a farmer, we have got under Ezra Foods a contract farming program. And on our application, we clearly are looking for somebody who has been in farming for 3 years. And why 3 years? Because we are saying if you've been on the land for 3 years and you've been productive for 3 years and can show, then you're ready to be scaled up. So how can these young farmers, firstly, they need to work on the land. Produce whatever can be produced with the resources that they have. Maintain it consistently for a minimum 24 months. If they can do that, then they are ready for funding. Then they are ready to be upscaled. Then the government can come in with a venture capital fund to identify the farmers, young farmers that are consistently working and producing something on their land and work with them. Now, this is where venture capital funding comes in. Venture capital funding comes in to capacitate the farmer as far as infrastructure is concerned. But with that funding comes also training. Because we have to also accept that most of our youth, they have not had an exposure to business management. They have not worked in a formal setup. So they don't know how to manage finances. They don't know how to structure a proper marketing strategy. They don't know how to manage the asset itself. So there is a need to train them, to say, we're training you on number one, financial management. Number two, asset management. How to manage this equipment that you have. What's your replacement schedule? What's your capex cycle? You need to have that because you will invest in them, they'll get the equipment and be unable to run it, be unable to manage it. 5 years down the line, they'll come back and want more funding, but show nothing for it. So this is where we need to come in. So what am I saying? I'm saying number one, identify through merit those that are producing. After you've identified those that are producing through merit consistently for the past 24 months, number two, provide venture capital funding. Not as cash, but as infrastructure, as implements, as irrigation systems into the farms. With this venture capital funding, we then provide training, business management training. The final component, after we've done that, is the market. This is where you then engage Zimtrade and the other organizations to give them access to the market. The third problem that young people will face in agriculture, I've already given you two. Two I've said is a game of scale. The first I said is a game of scale. The second I've said it's a long-term investment project. The third is the market. Currently, the Zimbabwe economy is depressed. There is market resistance on how far you can push your product. So if everybody is going to get into agriculture, grow tomatoes, cabbages. I was talking to another farmer just yesterday. Beginning of the year, he was selling his cabbages at $1 a cabbage head. He tried to take his cabbages yesterday to the market and they are saying $1 for 4 cabbages. His costs have gone up, but the prices have gone down. So you already have got market resistance by virtue of a depressed disposable income economy. Now, if you've crowded everybody in there, they are busy, they are working, but are they sustainable? They're not sustainable. They're not sustainable. So you'd rather identify the few that have got a track record, that are producing, that, as I've said, that have got as specific value proposition crop. The monkey see monkey do business that is going around where everyone right now has got a car parked by the corner selling tomatoes, vegetables and so forth and so on. That will not grow the economy. That actually is going to introduce into the economy a dealer mentality, which is already happening, where you go and get cabbages from Newton West and you come and park in front of Country Park and sell. You're not producing anything. All you're simply doing is you're just putting a markup and you're making that product more expensive in an economy already that is depressed and where there's less disposable income. So the best method is those that have already been working on the land are consistent, let them be capacitated. While they're being capacitated, let them be given access to the market. And try and push more export-oriented companies. And this is where Zulu Foods has come in, because we pick some of our products from these farmers who are within our contract farming program to capacitate them. I mean, we understand it's a long-term investment for us. So we are not working with them 2-3 years. Most of them is actually 10-year contracts that we run with them. To say over 10 years we are going to work with you, and because of that, we are able to invest and recoup money that has been invested into it. I think we'll illustrate this point when we go to the farm that's in Ikuza, where we've actually actively involved in that operation, and they've got that 10-year horizon. So that is Zimbabwe. I understand we were in Zimbabwe, those are the activities of Coleman Resources Zimbabwe. Now, where we are going is I've constantly been putting this hashtag, SADC is one country. SADC is one country. Southern Africa is one country. I've been to South Africa, and while in South Africa, I was mistaken, and I was told that you look like someone who comes from Durban. I've been to Botswana. While in Botswana, again, I'm mistaken to be Botswana. I've been to Namibia, the same thing again, I'm mistaken. We are all one people. We are all the same, right across borders. And good enough with the Africa trade area that has been established. This actually shows us that we need to start thinking from a Southern African perspective. I've said, look at the individual countries. There's a growing movement that wants to focus on their country, buy local and so forth. Yes, that's fine. But your local economy, Zimbabwe 15 million, Zambia 15 million, South Africa 50 million, is less than the Southern Africa population of 360 million. So if Zulu is going to supply 360 million, that's a bigger market than only supplying Zimbabwe's 15 million. So we need to have a Southern African view. And this is the view that the Coleman Group has had. To say within this decade, our focus has really been on Southern Africa. And as we focused on Southern Africa, we've actually focused our strategy on 2 tunnels. We've called it the red and the green tunnel. The green tunnel, we have said within Southern Africa, we want to establish a green belt of organically grown food supplied to the region, powered by renewable energies, which is why we've got Zulu Foods and we've got Arcadia Energy, and are empowering farmers with renewable energies to be able to then produce organically to supply the global market. So this is a concept that we're going to grow right across Southern Africa. As I'm speaking to you, we are actually in the process of establishing an Zulu Foods processing factory in South Africa and Zambia. So this is something that we are growing right across, which is our green tunnel. The red tunnel that we're establishing, we've already started off with the first participant in that tunnel, which is Accelerate Africa. The red tunnel is, we are saying, we need to set up manufacturing and resource processing enterprises within the channel. That will expedite the operations of SMEs in Southern Africa. I'll give you a case in point. With the tanking global economy and countries focusing more on their local economies, you will have a lot of countries which previously you would import processed goods from other countries, beginning to focus on their countries. And we're saying within the red tunnel, the time has come for us as Southern Africa to begin to manufacture some of these high-end products ourselves. There is no reason why we should mine copper, sell it out as cathodes, for us to buy motors that have been wound in Europe or in Asia. We can do this ourselves. We've got the engineers, we've got the know-how. We need to do it, and our young people can do it. Because in any case, with the high unemployment in the region, most are unemployed and they spend their days maintaining and rewiring these motors. So they can actually do it. We need deliberate strategies and policies from governments in Southern Africa to deliberately look at some of these things. And we as the Coleman Group are going to play a leading role in identifying some of these value chains. We prefer the model of illustrating a policy position and then we invite the government to come and crowd into it. As we've done with Ezulu Foods, we are doing that also in the Red Tunnel. So we first get in, invest, establish concept, show that this can be done, and then governments can then pick that up. So as the Coleman Group comes into Southern Africa, we come in as partners to help alleviate poverty, to help modernize our continent and our region, to help provide the needed jobs that the region needs. And we are saying these jobs are not going to come from big companies. These jobs are going to come from SMEs. We come in and we support the SMEs and grow the SMEs. So that when governments can then come up with policies to identify SMEs, it is easy to identify which sectors are actually doing well. I like to...
Okay, I'm good.
you've got a question? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I'm good because we've been talking for 51 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Also we need to wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So